Hello, listeners and fellow book lovers. Welcome to The Book Snug, a bi-weekly conversational podcast about books and the reading life. My name is Julia.
And I'm Stephany.
And we're a mother and daughter who love reading and talking about books. The ones we adore and the ones we don't. We're delighted you're here, so grab your favorite hot drink or ice-cold beverage and settle in for another cozy, bookish chat.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Mom.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's so good to see you. I feel like we haven't really seen each other since Christmas.
I know. Well, I kind of said hi and dashed for Christmas.
Right.
So.
Spent some time in Florida, came back and jumped right back into work.
Yeah.
So here we are in the Book Snug in the middle of January, post a snowstorm. Not a big one, but a fun one.
Well, 2 back-to-back.
Right. So we have some snow in South Central Pennsylvania, which we haven't really been seeing much of these last couple of years.
No, we didn't get any snow last year. I was very upset about it.
I know. So I'm just thankful for what we've gotten. Feels very much like winter around here.
Yeah. I only had to go into work for 2 days this week because I had off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yes.
Then I had a snow day Tuesday and a snow day yesterday. So only in the office Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, I work at a local community college, and the semester started this past Tuesday, and classes were canceled because of the snow. And they canceled classes yesterday, which would be Friday, and they also closed the campuses today, which is Saturday. So for the first week of the semester, they only had classes 2 days.
Just enough to review the syllabus, and that was it.
And not do anything else, yeah. So tell us, Julia, what do you have in your mug today?
I'm drinking a Harney & Sons hot cinnamon spice tea.
Yes.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it is lovely.
Yeah.
I think that's the decaf variety, which I really like to sip on at night when I feel like a cup of tea and I need to stay away from the caffeine. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. I was just in the mood for something a little feisty, maybe is what I'm looking for. Something that was spicy without being too sweet. And this is just hitting all those spots for me.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I'm also drinking Harney & Sons tea. I'm drinking my ubiquitous Christmas tea.
Ooh.
It's delicious. I will drink it till I run out, and then I won't buy any till next Christmas time. So I'm really enjoying it.
Good. Because I think this is the 5th episode that you've been drinking it on?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe possibly straight. Like I said, I love it. This is one of my favorite teas. Listeners, thank you so much for being here with us today. Yes. We're glad to have you back. If you're new here, you've never been with us before in the Book Snug.
Hi, friends.
Welcome. Yes. We're glad you're here. Today, we thought we would do something very fun and very different, I think, from what we've ever done on the Book Snug before. We're going to talk about books that we haven't read. These are books that are coming up in 2024. They are upcoming releases, and they're books that we are very excited about. So we wanted to talk about them here on the show and share them, and maybe you'll find a book or two that you will be looking forward to reading. Mostly in the first half of this year. I think, Julia, you have one book that goes beyond the first half.
I have a couple that are sitting like August, September.
Okay. So, but for the most part, these are books that are coming up in the next several months. How has your reading been going so far in 2024?
Well, the first book I read for 2024 turned out to be a very gritty crime story.
Okay. That does not seem like you at all.
No. No. And that probably got put in my give to Goodwill pile.
Okay.
But I am about to finish with my 4th book for January. And so far, they've all been really nice stories. I read Snow and Rose. I forget who wrote it.
Yes.
But that was a really nice snow day story.
Yeah.
So,
that's a lovely story.
Yeah. Yeah. So far, it's been really good, minus that first one.
It's kind of a shame, though, that you started off your year with not a bad book, but not a favorite book.
I thought it was going to be more of a mystery, and it was less a commentary on mystery and more a commentary on evil and racism, and like it just was not. It's not what I was expecting it to be.
Okay,
so, but I finished it the first day on vacation, which meant I could go to the bookstore and get more books, which is promptly what I did.
And now it's behind you, and things are picking up, so that's good. Yeah.
How's your reading been? It's
been slow. I've had a slow start to 2024, but I have not been disappointed in my reading. I've been very satisfied. I just finished up a book that was a literary fiction, post-pandemic, kind of post-apocalyptic story that took a lot of effort. Not because I wasn't interested in the story, but the structure was unusual. There were no quotation marks, so I had to sometimes go back and figure out who was actually talking when, and that takes time and effort. So that slowed my reading down pretty good, but I have been really enjoying what I'm reading. I'm currently reading Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands.
I can't wait.
Well, I'm listening to it, but I call that reading, and I am absolutely loving every minute of it. It is exactly what I hoped it would be.
Yeah.
So it's been a lovely reading time for me.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into that one. I can't wait.
Okay, now that we've talked about how we're feeling with our reading so far, let's jump into these upcoming books that we're excited about. We can't possibly talk about all the books that we're looking forward to. The podcast would be hours long. So I think we picked, about 10 each?
Yeah.
They're all different, so there won't be any overlap between Julia's list and my list. And you'll find that there are themes in our list. You can definitely see what kind of reader we are based on these upcoming releases that we're really excited about. But it is a pretty eclectic list, too. I have one nonfiction book, there's fantasy, there's historical fiction, literary fiction, some science fiction. So I think it's a good list. And I can't wait to talk about them. I do feel like we need to put a disclaimer here that we haven't read any of these books, obviously.
No.
So we don't know if they're good or not. They are just books that are sounding good to us. As we work down through our list, we are going to be reading the Barnes & Noble synopses of the books. So we are pulling the synopsis off the website and reading bits and pieces of it. We're not going to read every full synopsis for every book. But just know that the synopses are not our own. They're coming from Barnes & Noble. And we are not making recommendations here. We are just talking about the books that are getting us all excited about reading for 2024.
And I will say, at least on my list, there's a couple of authors that I've read before, so I know the quality of their work.
Yeah.
So they're kind of on my list. I'm interested in them, but it's also by a default. Hey, I've read this author before. Right. I enjoyed it. I want to see what this next one's about.
I have many books like that where I've read the author before. I know how they write and their writing style, and I've enjoyed it. So I'm interested in seeing what they do next. I have a few books from people I've never read before, but the majority are from authors that I have read before. Some of the authors I've spoken about on the show before.
Yes.
For listeners who don't know where to look for information on upcoming releases, where did you find your books, Julia? Where did you get your information about the books that are coming out soon that you want to read?
So a couple of different places. I think most solidly it was Barnes & Noble. I pulled up new releases for 2024 and just kind of read through that list and picked the ones that were interesting. But some of the booktubers that I follow as well do an occasional new releases I'm excited about. And so when I am watching those videos, I have my Amazon, my book wish list pulled up at the same time. So I just carry stuff over. So it's a mix of booktube and it's also a mix of Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. I would have to say the Barnes & Noble upcoming releases list, I look at a lot.
Yeah.
I got a lot of my information from there. I also get information from the booktubers that I subscribe to. So those are two really good resources. Some of the other places that I looked include a website called the Book List Queen. She has all kinds of book lists, but she always does upcoming releases for each month, which I really enjoy. She lists the ones that she's interested in, and then she lists most of the popular authors, and then just the buzzy books that she's been hearing about, and it's usually a long list of books. So I looked through that. Modern Mrs. Darcy is another website, and she's a podcaster who talks about upcoming books. And then I found Publishers Weekly as well, and they do upcoming book lists. Now, it tends to be a little more literary than some of the other places I'm looking. Their focus is more literary, but I found that their upcoming releases lists were very informative. I found some books there that I didn't find anywhere else.
Okay.
And then a few other places that I like to look are individual publishing houses like Penguin Random House. Or Zondervan, if you're interested in Christian publishing. And there are tons of other publishing houses. Tor is another one. So you can go to individual publishing houses. If you have particular authors that you love, go to their web pages or Instagram accounts. You can find out what they have coming up next. And then finally, there is a website called BookBub, which is a website for finding ebooks that are on sale. But they also have a book blog, and they do a lot of upcoming release types of articles in their blog. And then finally, Goodreads. Goodreads is a great place to go for looking for upcoming releases.
Sure.
They do all kinds of lists that readers put together. Plus, they have their own news and special interest pieces that you can look at and find out what interesting books are coming up.
Yeah.
So there are many, many resources. If you have access to the internet, you have access to upcoming releases of all kinds.
Yeah. This was a really interesting exercise for me because I tend not to look at new releases. I think because I'm not buying books actively or regularly, and I just tend to focus what's on my shelf. I don't really know what the trends are of books right now. So it was really fun to like dive into upcoming releases, seeing what's out there, and it's going to put a challenge to my no
buying books.
Yeah.
You feel like an investigator or a researcher. It's just kind of fun.
It is.
Yes. And I like then, once I have found a couple books that I like, there are people who get advanced reader copies and they read them and do book reviews prior to the actual publishing date. So you can get a feel for whether or not people are really loving the book or if they're not. I mean, it doesn't always sway me as to whether or not I'm going to pick up a book. If I read the reviews and what people are saying in the reviews don't bother me, then yes, I will still pick the book up. But it's fun to read some of the advanced opinions of books too.
Hey, that could be fun to do for the podcast, to get to the point where we get advanced reader copies
and then talk about the books on the show. Yeah. But see, that I'm not sure that would work for me because I'm a mood reader and I would feel obligated to read certain books, and I'm afraid it would become a slog. It's why I don't sign up for advanced reader copies anyway, because I would feel obligated to give reviews, and then I think reading would not be fun anymore.
Right. Well, maybe once in a while. But I think you're right that it would kind of feel like it's going the way of an everyday 3 peas in a pod instead of just do this as your leisure. Yeah. Actually, the book that I was complaining about, the first book that I read this year, was an advanced reader copy that I got through a book sale.
Okay.
But I'm very curious how the other people who read the advanced copy, what their thoughts were.
Yeah.
Because
it wasn't for you.
No.
Okay.
No. But advanced reader copies, I think, are really interesting. And especially when they're people who have a platform and they get these and they can talk about it. So I am curious how that ups like pre-order sales or pushes trends or tides for certain things, especially in the book and reading community. But undoubtedly there's a whole ton of psychology behind all
I'm
of that.
sure there is, Marketing is a big psychologically based practice. Yeah. So it's interesting. Well, no more talk about how we got here and how we found our books. Before we dive into the books that are coming up, I thought I would quick run through a couple of the books that have already come out in January of 2024. They are new releases now. They are not upcoming releases, but these are books that are exciting to me. And I think at least one of them is exciting to Julia. Yeah. So I'm going to run through these quick. These would have made our list if we had recorded earlier in the year. So the first book is Divine Might, Goddesses in Greek Myth by Natalie Haynes. This came out January 2nd, and it is just a book about the Greek goddesses. So Aphrodite, Athena, Hera. Okay. The reason that this made my list is because I have read Natalie Haynes before. She is smart. She has incredible insight, but she's also funny. And she narrated her own book, the book that I listened to, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I have always liked Greek myth way before it became popular as a Greek myth retelling. So I definitely want to read this book. It probably won't happen anytime soon, but it is on my list. The other thing, I never know whether to label Greek myth fiction or nonfiction. I never know how to address it. If it's an actual retelling of a story, I think it's fiction. But if somebody's talking about Greek myth, I think it's nonfiction. Is that how you would separate it?
I think if it's a retelling of a myth, it's fiction for me.
Okay.
But if somebody is like telling me this, like it's an anthology of myths, then it's more nonfiction.
Okay.
If that makes sense. That's how I do it.
Okay. I still think it's muddy, but that's okay. It doesn't matter.
Well, with a retelling of a myth, you can put in a lot of stuff.
Right.
In
That
there.
definitely would be fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting conversation.
Anyway, I don't want to go down that road. Yeah. I'm interested in divine might. The second book is a mystery thriller by Amy McCulloch called Midnight. This is a closed circle mystery, which means all the characters are stuck together in a place they can't get away from. So the murderer is in that group of people. It takes place on a luxury cruise ship in the Antarctic. And it just sounds like a great read for right now.
Oh, sure.
So I might be picking this one up soon. This was also released on the 2nd of January. The third book is The Wild and Distant Seas by Tara Karr Roberts. I believe this is a debut literary fiction with a touch of magic. Ooh. It's about 4 generations of women who are making their way in the world. The setting is Nantucket, and there is a nod to Moby Dick. Some of the characters in Moby Dick make an appearance in this novel. My mom, Julia's Nana, read this already, and she loved it. It is laced with magic, so there is some magical realism in this, but she just said it was a lovely, lovely book. That also came out on the 2nd of January. So January 2nd was a big publishing date. Then 2 books were published on January 16th. The first is, of course, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, which is the second installment in Heather Fawcett's series about Emily Wilde. I'm loving it. I'm reading it, like I said, listening to it right now and completely immersed in it. And then finally, Rachel Hawkins has another book that came out on the 16th called The Heiress. And it's pretty much a mystery. It's a family mystery centering on a very wealthy, eccentric woman who was kidnapped when she was a child. Yeah. And the story just kind of gradually investigates that whole thing.
Sure.
I read her book, The Villa, last year, and it made an appearance in our superlatives episode because I love the cover of that book so much. This just seems like it's going to be a nice, interesting mystery. I don't expect it to be thrillery, just more on the mystery side of things. So those are the books that have already come out that I'm interested in.
Sure.
Anything you want to add there, Julia?
No, I think that's a pretty solid list.
Okay. Well, then why don't we dive right into the books that we're looking forward to?
So I'll go ahead and get us started with my first book here. Coming January 30th, so literally just in a couple of days here, is These Deadly Prophecies by Andrea Tang. And I don't know much about this. Obviously, we don't know that for any of these books. But the synopsis on Barnes & Noble reads like this. Being an apprentice to one of the world's most famous sorcerers has its challenges. Tabitha Zhang just didn't think they would involve solving crime. But when her boss, the infamous fortune teller sorcerer Solomon, predicts his own brutal death, and worse, it comes true, Tabitha finds herself caught in the crosshairs. She has a co-worker, or rather, it's the boss's youngest son, Calum Solomon, and they try to solve this crime together.
Okay.
But the police think it's the two of them who did this.
Oh, so they are the prime suspects.
Right. But then it goes on to say that solving a murder isn't as easy as it seems, especially when the suspect list is mostly the rich, connected, and magical members of Sorcerer Solomon's family.
Ooh, okay.
So it kind of ties it up by saying nothing is as it seems in this quick-witted and fantastical murder mystery.
That actually sounds like a lot of fun.
It does.
I love murder mystery. It's one of my favorite genres. So yeah.
And it sounds like it's going to be a little bit magical too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think this just sounds like a fun romp. Okay, what's your first one, Mom?
My first book also is being released on January 30th.
Oh.
This is called Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, and it's by Benjamin Stevenson. He wrote Everyone in My Family Has Murdered Someone last year. He's an Australian author. That book was very tongue-in-cheek. He wrote in first person, and the main character is a mystery writer.
Okay.
And he breaks the fourth wall, which means he talks to the reader frequently, explaining what's happening, what to look for. He starts the book by telling the readers when the murders will take place, on what pages in the book. So this word is being overused a lot, but it's a very meta book. It talks about mysteries as a mystery book.
Oh, fun.
So this is the second book. I'm expecting the same approach.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it. I'm a big mystery lover, so I understood all of the little hints and asides that he was making as they related to mysteries and mystery writers. Barnes & Noble says, for fans of Richard Osman and Anthony Horowitz, a fiendishly fun locked room murder mystery from the author of Everyone in My Family Has Murdered Someone. This time, the story is set on a train full of mystery writers, agents, editors, and fans. Ernest Cunningham returns in a deliciously witty locked room train mystery. When the Australian Mystery Writers Society invited me to their crime writing festival aboard the Gone, the famous train between Darwin and Adelaide, I was hoping for some inspiration for my second book. Fiction this time. I needed a break from real people killing each other. Obviously, that didn't pan out. Now, this is Ernest actually talking, if you haven't picked up on that. The program is a who's who of crime writing royalty. The debut writer, me, the forensic science writer, the blockbuster writer, the legal thriller writer, the literary writer, the psychological suspense writer. But when one of us is murdered, the remaining authors quickly turn into 5 detectives. Together, we should know how to solve a crime. Of course, we should also know how to commit one. How can you find a killer when all the suspects know how to get away with murder?
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it will. I think it will be very fun because it is a murder mystery, but it's, like I said, very tongue-in-cheek, very funny, very meta, addressing mysteries in general while this specific mystery is going on.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to it. I listened to the first one, so I will probably listen to the second one. So that's my book number 1, Julia. Tell us about your book number 2.
Sure. Well, I'm flipping the page. The titles of those books reminded me of an author that I haven't gotten into yet, but I want to. And he writes titles like I Just Want to Stay in Bed and Eat Tteokbokki, or Until the Coffee Gets Cold, or like just really long, kind of drawn out.
Yeah.
And titles like that, just they pull me in because they're just so absurd.
Odd. Yeah.
But that book sounds like a lot of fun.
I think it will be.
Yeah. Okay. My second one is coming out February 27th. And this is The American Daughters by Maurice Carlos Ruffin. From the synopsis, this is the story of 2 women, Addie and Sanit, and they are enslaved. But when they get separated, Addie ends up getting connected with a spy society.
Okay.
And now she is starting to spy. I believe this is around the time of the Civil War.
Right. So she's spying against the Confederates.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But kind of the synopsis from Barnes & Noble ties everything up with saying The American Daughters is a novel of hope and triumph that reminds us what is possible when a community bands together to fight for their freedom.
Okay.
So it's going to be historical fiction, which I really like.
Yes.
Spy stories, which I've read a couple of, specifically historical spy stories, I really like. And I'm continuing the theme of mothers and daughters too with this one. So I think it's going to be really nice.
It does sound good.
Yeah. With my herky-jerky synopsis, but we got there. I don't want to sit and read these huge paragraphs, so I'm trying to piece it all together.
No, I understand. Absolutely. All right. My number 2 book is called The Tainted Cup by Jackson Robert Bennett, and this comes out February 6th. It's a Holmes and Watson style detective duo that take the stage in this fantasy with a mystery twist. In Darren Tana's greatest mansion, a high imperial officer lies dead, killed to all appearances when a tree erupts from his body. Even here at the Empire's borders, where contagions abound and the blood of the Leviathans works strange magical changes, it is a death both terrifying and impossible. Assigned to investigate is Anna Delabra, a detective whose reputation for brilliance is matched only by her eccentricities. Rumor has it that she wears a blindfold at all times and that she can solve impossible cases without even stepping outside the walls of her home. At her side is her new assistant, Dinios Cole, magically altered in ways that make him the perfect aid to Anna's brilliance. Din is at turns scandalized, perplexed, and utterly infuriated by his new superior. But as the case unfolds and he watches Anna's mind leap from one startling deduction to the next, he must admit that she is indeed the Empire's greatest detective. By an endlessly inventive author with a wicked sense of humor, The Tainted Cup mixes the charms of detective fiction with brilliant world building to deliver a fiendishly clever mystery that's at once instantly recognizable and thrillingly new. The couple, like I said, have been compared to Watson and Holmes. So I think it's just going to be a fun mystery with an interesting couple. Of detectives. So I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like it's hard fantasy, so it might take a little bit for me to get into that part of it, but it intrigues me enough that it made it on the list.
That one sounds like a lot of fun too. I think the idea of you crafting somebody to work alongside you to be perfect for you can go south so quickly. So I'm curious how humorous that book would end up being.
Okay. Are we on number three? Book number 3, Julia. Okay. What are you looking forward to?
Okay, the next one, also coming on February 27th, is Fate Inked in Blood. This is book 1 of the Saga of the Unfated by Danielle L. Jensen. And I guess maybe I should say I'm not big on series. I didn't realize this was the first of a series before I put it down.
Right.
But we'll see. So the synopsis goes, a steamy romantasy steeped in Norse folklore. My English is just fighting me hard. A Fate Inked in Blood stars a fierce heroine stuck in an arranged marriage, destined for more. With a fully realized world packed with dynamic and complex heroes, this is a fantasy realm you will love your stay in. Bound in an unwanted marriage, Freya spends her days gutting fish but dreams of becoming a warrior, and of putting an axe in her boorish husband's back. Freya's dreams abruptly become reality when her husband betrays her to the region's Jarl, landing her in a fight to the death against his son Bjorn. To survive, Freya is forced to reveal her deepest secret. She possesses a drop of a goddess's blood, which makes her a shield maiden with magic capable of repelling any attack.
Ooh.
So the synopsis goes on. It's a lot more complex.
Yeah.
But I love Norse mythology.
Right.
I love the magic that goes along with that. And I think this is going to be a nice, big fantasy series to get into.
An epic story.
Yeah.
Plus shield maiden, women warriors. How can you not like that?
Right. I think this one could be good. But I'm also very protective of my fantasy series, so I might be a little bit more, maybe not jaded, but a little bit more like guarded going into it.
Yeah.
Number 4. Or no, you're on number 3.
I'm still on number 3, yeah. I am going to go with another author that I've read before. This is The Foxwife by Yangshi Chu. It comes out February 13th. Yangshi Chu wrote The Night Tiger. And I think I've shared that book on the show before, but I can't tell you what episode. But we can put it in the show notes. She tends to write sweeping stories with a complex plot that pull in myth and legend from the region that she's writing about into the story. The Night Tiger had a mystery associated with it, a murder mystery, but it also talked about were-tigers. This book is set in Manchuria in 1908, and there is some mythical elements, Chinese mythical elements, and there's also a murder mystery in this book as well. So you're going to listeners, you're going to hear a lot of mystery in my list because I like that. I love magical realism. I love myth. So this book is going to tick a lot of boxes for me. The synopsis is, in the last years of the dying King Empire, a courtesan is found frozen in a doorway. Her death is clouded by rumors of foxes, which are believed to lure people by transforming themselves into beautiful women and handsome men. Bayo, a detective with an uncanny ability to sniff out the truth, is hired to uncover the dead woman's identity. Since childhood, Bayo has been intrigued by the fox gods, yet they've remained tantalizingly out of reach until now. Meanwhile, a family who owns a famous Chinese medicine shop can cure ailments but can't escape the curse that afflicts them. Their eldest sons die before their 24th birthdays. When a disruptively winsome servant named Snow enters their household, the family's luck seems to change. Or does it? New York Times best-selling author Yang-Shi Chu brilliantly explores a world of mortals and spirits, humans and beasts, and their dazzling intersection. Epic in scope and full of singular, unforgettable characters, The Foxwife is a stunning novel about old loves and second chances, the depths of maternal love, and the ancient folk tales that may very well be true. So this, I think, is going to be fabulous. It's probably one of the books at the tippy top of my can't wait to read for 2024.
It sounds like a heavier pick.
I think, yeah, definitely. I highly recommend her books. They are so good. If you like that combination of mystery and myth plus culture. I mean, she writes very specifically in a culture. The Night Tiger was Malaysia. This is China. So she's just very good at that mixture of themes and concepts. Okay, Julia, moving on.
Okay.
Book number 4.
Number 4, coming March 5th, is A Murder Road by Simone St. James.
Ooh.
After her last one, I'm very hesitant.
Okay, you're a little nervous.
I didn't like the Book of Cold Cases as much.
Okay.
But I think this could be very interesting. So, July 1995, April and Eddie have taken a wrong turn. They're looking for the small resort town where they plan to spend their honeymoon. When they spot what appears to be a lone hitchhiker along the deserted road, they stop to help. But not long after the hitchhiker gets into their car, they see the blood seeping from her jacket and a truck barreling down Atticus Line after them. When the hitchhiker dies at the local hospital, April and Eddie find themselves in the crosshairs of the Cold Lake Falls police. Unexplained murders have been happening along Atticus Line for years, and the cops finally have 2 witnesses who easily become their only suspects. As April and Eddie start to dig into the history of the town and that horrible stretch of road to clear their names, they soon learn that there is something supernatural at work, something that could not only tear the town and its dark secrets apart, but take April and Eddie down with it all.
I think that sounds good.
I think it does too. And I'm curious if she's going to lean more on the murder mystery side or more on the ghost side, because she seems to swap back and forth with that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes she's much more on the supernatural level, and then other times she leans more into the mystery side. Yeah. So I'm curious. That sounds like a good book to read in the fall, I think.
I agree. And it also doesn't sound too much like this is going to be a split timeline, which makes me wonder what else is going on, because she does the split timeline pretty often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued for sure.
Okay, what's your number 4?
Okay, my number 4 also deals with ghosts, possibly.
Ooh.
It's The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. It comes out February 13th. Catherine Arden wrote the Bear and the Nightingale series, which is kind of a Russian folktale based series that's very cold and snowy. I read the first book and really loved it, but I stink with series, so I never read the second 2 books. But I did like her writing, and this synopsis intrigues me. Barnes & Noble says, January 1918, Laura Ivan was a revered field nurse until she was wounded and discharged from the medical corps, leaving behind a brother still fighting in Flanders. And this would be World War I, not World War II. Now home in Halifax, Canada, Laura receives word of Freddie's death in combat, along with his personal effects. But something doesn't make sense. Determined to uncover the truth, Laura returns to Belgium as a volunteer at a private hospital, where she soon hears whispers about haunted trenches and a strange hotelier whose wine gives soldiers the gift of oblivion. Could Freddie have escaped the battlefield only to fall prey to something or someone else? A haunting historical fiction standalone inspired by real-life stories from World War I. This is the tale of siblings separated by the war and the search for reunion. With a speculative twist, The Warm Hands of Ghosts weaves the historical with the supernatural with delightful ease. So again, it sounds right up my alley.
It does. It does.
I love historical fiction. If I'm going to read about the world wars, I'd rather read about World War I. And I like the idea of the sibling connection, which you don't get quite as much.
Sure, yeah.
So it just sounds good to me. This seems like another fall read that I might pick up.
Sure.
In September, October, November.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Fun. It's a no for me, but have fun.
It's a no for you.
You know, I don't do war stories very often. It's for my own experiences. It's just not for me, but if you like it, that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is for me. This is not for you.
No, you're right. It's not.
Okay, book number 5.
So on March 11th, this is a cookbook I'm interested about.
Oh, tell us.
My husband and I, we watch Good Mythical Morning.
Yes.
On the internet. And their chef, Josh, Mythical Chef Josh, is releasing a cookbook.
Okay.
Called The Mythical Cookbook. Now, the reason that I'm interested in this is simply because on the show, they made a grilled cheese ramen that I think sounds absolutely incredible. And I think it's in the cookbook.
So you're just for that one recipe?
There's other things too.
I know.
But that's the recipe that I just really stands out to me. And
you can't wait for.
Yeah. I have the Binging with Babish cookbook too because of being able to have the ability to try the things that I see online too. So I'm excited for it, whether I make a lot out of it or not. I don't know. But I think this will be a fun one to at least look through and try.
Yeah, that does sound fun to me. Good Mythical Morning it's a fun YouTube channel.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with getting into my kitchen and messing about and like experimenting. And if something doesn't work out, that's totally fine. So, okay. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is a hardcore historical fiction called The Phoenix Crown by Kate Quinn and Janie Chang. This also comes out February 13th. So February 13th is a big publishing day for me. It's from best-selling authors Janie Chang and Kate Quinn. It's a thrilling and unforgettable narrative about the entwined lives of 2 wronged women, spanning from the chaos of the San Francisco earthquake to the glittering palaces of Versailles. So, in San Francisco in 1906, you have a city bustling with newly minted millionaires and scheming upstarts. There are 2 very different women who hope to change their fortunes. Gemma, a golden-haired, silver-voiced soprano whose career desperately needs rekindling, and Su Ling, a petite and resolute Chinatown embroideress who was determined to escape an arranged marriage. Their paths cross when they are drawn into the orbit of Henry Thornton, a charming railroad magnate whose extraordinary collection of Chinese antiques includes the fabled Phoenix Crown, a legendary relic of Beijing's fallen summer palace. His patronage offers Gemma and Su Ling the chance of a lifetime, but their lives are thrown into turmoil when a devastating earthquake rips San Francisco apart and Thornton disappears, leaving behind a mystery reaching further than anyone could have imagined. Until the Phoenix Crown reappears 5 years later at a sumptuous Paris costume ball, drawing Gemma and Su Ling together in one last desperate quest for justice. So you don't know how they were wronged, and you don't really know what the connection is between the 3 of them and the Phoenix Crown. But it just sounds like it would be a good, strong historical fiction. And it's not a war story.
Right.
And it's more contemporary than a lot of the historical fiction that you get. I've read Kate Quinn before. She wrote The Diamond Eye. I didn't read that, but she did write The Alice Network, which I did write and really, really, really enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to that. When I'm in the mood for just historical fiction, this would be one I would be interested in picking up. Okay. I think we're moving on to book number 6.
Yes.
Okay.
So coming March 19th, this is James by Percival Everett.
Oh, this sounds good to me.
And from my understanding of the synopses and what I've heard talked about it, this is the story. It's told from James's perspective.
Jim.
Jim, yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Well, you would know him as Jim from...
Yes, from the story.
Yeah.
But this is the slave that's hiding in, I believe it's Huck Finn.
Yeah, he travels with Huck for a while.
Yes, I just couldn't remember which book
It is definitely Huckleberry Finn.
Yes. So this is the story told from his perspective.
Yeah.
And I like stories that do that. I like stories that take, so like The Other Bennett Sister, where they take these characters in one primary story, but then they tell the story.
Their story.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I think this could be a very interesting examination of the Huck Finn story through different eyes.
Yes,
too.
through a slave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's trying to hide because he's being sold apart from his family. So he's trying to come up with a plan to not let that happen.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it was on your list, so I took it off of mine, but I'm definitely interested in reading that.
Yeah.
Number 6 on my list is a nonfiction by Cal Newport, who wrote Digital Minimalism. There's another book he wrote too that I actually read, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. But this book is called Slow Productivity. It comes out March 5th. And the synopsis says, long before the arrival of picking inboxes and clogged schedules, history's most creative and impactful philosophers, scientists, artists, and writers mastered the art of producing valuable work with staying power. In this timely and provocative book, Cal Newport harnesses the wisdom of these traditional knowledge workers to radically transform our modern jobs, drawing from deep research on the habits and mindsets of a varied cast of storied thinkers, from Galileo and Isaac Newton to Jane Austen and Georgia O'Keeffe. Newport lays out the key principles of slow productivity, a more sustained alternative to the aimless overwhelm that defines our culture, our current moment. Combining cultural criticism with systematic pragmatism, Newport deconstructs the absurdities inherent in standard notions of productivity and then provides step-by-step advice for cultivating a slower, more humane alternative. Slow productivity is exactly what we need. Do fewer things, work at a natural pace, obsess over quality. So that's just for me, for how I approach my work, how I approach most work in my life.
Yeah.
I just think it will be a good reminder that busy work and busyness is not the most effective way to approach things that you want to do. And I love the idea of obsessing over quality. That really speaks to my perfectionistic heart. So maybe that's not a good thing. But anyway, I think this book will be really interesting. Okay. That's my book number 6. Okay. So we're moving on to number 7.
Yes.
What's your book number 7 for the year?
Yes. So coming April 2nd is Husbands by Holly Gramazio.
Okay.
And this one is, it's a wild card in this pick, because I think if I would have seen it on like a Barnes & Noble shelf, it would have been a toss-up of whether I would have gotten it or not. But
would you have even picked it up?
I probably would have picked it up to read the back of it, then would have thought about it, put it down, maybe left the store, thought about, like it would have been one of those, like,
yeah.
But the synopsis is, when Lauren returns home to her flat in London late one night, she is greeted at the door by her husband, Michael. There's only one problem: she's not married. She's never seen this man before in her life, but according to her friends, her much improved decor, and the photos on her phone, they've been together for years. As Lauren tries to puzzle out how she could be married to someone she can't remember meeting, Michael goes to the attic to change a light bulb and abruptly disappears. In his place, a new man emerges, and a new, slightly altered life reforms around her. Realizing that her attic is creating an infinite supply of husbands, Lauren confronts the question: if swapping lives is as easy as changing a light bulb, how do you know you've taken the right path? When do you stop trying to do better and start actually living?
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I mean, that sounds more philosophical than I expected it to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So as I was reading the synopsis, it reminded me a lot of like the Midnight Library, but in a much lighter tone of things, of like causing you to reflect on your own life. And it sounds super quirky too. So this might be a very interesting one, I think.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me if you read it. Well, you can share with all of us if you thought it was good or not.
Yeah, sure. What's your number 7?
The 7th book that I'm really looking forward to this year is coming out April 2nd. It's called A Short Walk Through the Wide World by Douglas Westerbeek. It's compared to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue meets Life of Pi in this dazzling epic debut that charts the incredible adventurous life of one woman as she journeys the globe trying to outrun a mysterious curse that will destroy her if she stops moving. It starts in Paris in 1885. Aubrey Torvel, a spoiled and stubborn 9-year-old girl, comes across a wooden puzzle ball on her walk home from school. She tosses it over the fence, only to find it in her backpack that evening. Days later, at the family dinner table, she starts to bleed to death.
Oh, gosh.
When medical treatment only makes her worse, she flees to the outskirts of the city where she realizes that it is this very active movement that keeps her alive. So begins her lifelong journey on the run from her condition, which won't allow her to stay anywhere for longer than a few days, nor return to a place where she's already been. Fiercely independent and hopeful, yet full of longing, Aubrey Torvel is an unforgettable character fighting her way through a world of wonders to find a place she can call home. A spellbinding and inspiring story about discovering meaning in a life that seems otherwise impossible. A Short Walk Through a Wide World reminds us that it is not the destination, but rather the journey, no matter how long it lasts, that makes us who we are. So it just sounds good. It sounds like a quest story. It sounds like somebody trying to make a life out of a very difficult circumstance. Plus, I think we're going to be in a lot of places and see a lot of places and meet a lot of people. And I like a book like that every once in a while.
Yeah. It sounds interesting.
I think it's going to be another philosophical book.
Yeah. It also sounds like it's going to pull at the heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I'm expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay if I cry at a book occasionally. Book number 8, Julia.
Yeah.
What's the next on your want-to-read list of new releases in 2024?
Yes. So I'm going to apologize in advance. The synopsis that I'm going to read is a little long, but I feel like it's important to read all of it, because if I just skip to some of the end, it's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
Coming April 16th is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Chang.
Okay.
So, an epic fantasy debut that explores colonialism, addiction, and immigration. To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods is inspired by the history of the Opium Wars and Manchurian folklore. With a slow burn villain love interest and a magic and science dichotomy, this debut is a riveting addition to the sprawling fantasy literary landscape and sure to launch Molly X. Chang's star her career. So, daughter of a conquered world, Roy Ying hates the invaders who descended from the heavens long before she was born and defeated the magic of her people with technologies unlike anything her world has ever seen. Blessed by death, born with the ability to pull the life out of mortal bodies, Roy Ying shouldn't have to fear those foreign invaders, but she does. Especially because she wants to keep herself and her family safe. But when Roy Ying's gift is discovered by an enemy prince, he offers her an impossible deal. If she becomes his private assassin and eliminates his political rivals, whose deaths he swears would be for the good of both their worlds and would protect her people from further brutalization, her family will never starve or suffer harm again. But to accept this bargain, she must use the power she has always feared, powers that will shave years off of her own existence.
Okay.
Can Roy Ying trust this prince, whose promises of a better world make her heart ache and whose smiles make her pulse beat faster? Or are the evils of this agreement really in the service of a much greater good? Or will she betray her entire nation by protecting those she loves the most? So it sounds like a complicated fantasy with a little bit of romance with some philosophy in there.
Yeah, so a lot of political maneuverings. Yeah. Okay. Sounds vast and sweeping.
Yes, it does. It does. And the cover is the cover's pretty too, and I think that's what caught me initially.
Yeah, love a pretty cover.
What did you say?
We love a pretty cover around here.
We do.
My number 8 is a late addition to the list. It's Extinction by Douglas Preston. Comes out April 23rd. The reason I'm picking this is it sounds like a Jurassic Park style story. It just sounds like a fun, thrilling adventure, science gone bad type of story that would be great to read at the beach or outside in the summer or by the pool. So this is my summer reading, anticipated read. Douglas Preston is a well-known thriller mystery writer. He writes a series with another author that's very well-known. With Extinction, #1 New York Times bestselling author Douglas Preston has written a page-turning thriller in the Michael Crichton mode. Michael Crichton wrote Jurassic Park. That explores the possible and unintended dangers of the very real efforts to resurrect the woolly mammoth and other long-extinct animals. Erebus Resort, occupying a magnificent 100,000-acre valley deep in the Colorado Rockies, offers guests the experience of viewing woolly mammoths, Irish elk, and giant ground sloths in their native habitat, brought back from extinction through the magic of genetic manipulation. When a billionaire's son and his new wife are kidnapped and murdered in the Erebus backcountry by what is assumed to be a gang of eco-terrorists, Colorado Bureau of Investigation agent Francis Cash partners with County Sheriff James Colcord to track down the perpetrators. As the killings mount and the valley is evacuated, Cash and Colcord must confront an ancient, intelligent, and malevolent presence at Erebus, bent not on resurrection but extinction. It just sounds like a great beach vacation travel read to me.
It does.
I mean, it sounds like it's doing everything that Jurassic Park did, just in a different setting. But still, I think it sounds good. And it's a murder mystery instead of animals going bad.
Sure.
So, that's my #8, April 23rd, Extinction.
Okay.
Next up, Julia.
Yes, #9. This is coming May 21st. This is Lies and Weddings by Kevin Kwan.
Okay.
Which is
the crazy rich agents, dude. Yeah.
Yes. And I think because this one sounds like a romp is probably why I'm putting. I was not thrilled with the crazy rich Asians.
Why is that so hard to say?
No, it gets me every time.
Yeah, I struggled with it too.
But that series I had fun with, but it wasn't sparkling and spectacular. Yeah. This one, a volcano is involved now. So, Rufus Luong Gresham, future Duke of Greshambury and son of a former Hong Kong supermodel, has a problem. The legendary Gresham Trust has been depleted by decades of prolificate spending, and behind all of the magazine covers and Instagram stories, manners, and yachts lies nothing more than a gargantuan mountain of debt. Now, the only solution, put forth by Rufus's mother, is for Rufus to attend his sister's wedding at a luxury eco resort, which has a who's who of sultans, barons, and oligarchs, and seduce a woman with money.
This sounds like Jane Austen.
So he has a couple of options. He has a French hotel heiress. He has a tattooed venture capital genius. Or he could follow his heart and marry just a humble daughter of a doctor. But then it goes to say that when a volcanic eruption burns through the nuptials and a hot mic exposes a secret tryst, the Gresham family plans and their reputation go up in flames.
Ooh. It sounds like fun.
It does.
Knowing Kevin Kwan.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little seedy. A little crass, but yeah.
Yeah. The characters, that's something that he does do well. He writes very spunky characters.
Yeah, believable characters.
Yeah. So I think this one goes well too with the one that you were just talking about. Like, it's a good beach read, or it's a good pool reader. It's a good just sit and go through it pretty quickly kind of a story.
Yeah. The next book I want to talk about is called The Ministry of Time by Kayleanne Bradley. This comes out May 7th. It's a time travel romance, a spy thriller, a workplace comedy, and an ingenious exploration of the nature of power and the potential for love to change it all. In the near future, a civil servant is offered the salary of her dreams and is shortly afterward told what project she'll be working on. A recently established government ministry is gathering expats from across history to establish whether time travel is feasible for the body, but also for the fabric of space-time. She is tasked with working as a bridge, quote unquote, living with, assisting, and monitoring the expat known as 1847, or Commander Graham Gore. As far as history is concerned, Commander Gore died on Sir John Franklin's doomed 1845 expedition to the Arctic. So he's a little disoriented to be living with an unmarried woman who regularly shows her calves, surrounded by outlandish concepts such as washing machines, Spotify, and the collapse of the British Empire. But with an appetite for discovery, a 7-a-day cigarette habit, and the support of a charming and chaotic cast of fellow expats, he soon adjusts. An exquisite, original, and feverishly fun fusion of genres and ideas, the Ministry of Time asks, what does it mean to defy history when history is living in your house?
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, no.
Kaylee Ann Bradley's answer is a blazing, unforgettable testament to what we owe each other in a changing world. This book reminds me of the movie Kate and Leopold, which came out in 2001 with Meg Ryan and Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman comes from the 1800s into New York City, present day New York City, and Meg Ryan finds him and he stays with her. Gosh. It has similar vibes to me, but I think it is just going to be funny, and it's a romance love story. I just think it'll be fun. Yeah. Speculative fiction with some romance attached to it and time travel.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like it's going to be like laugh out loud funny.
Right. I'm sure he's a little disoriented.
Yeah. Learning how to adjust to laundry machines.
And a woman showing her calves in public.
Can you imagine?
All right, Julia, we are at the end of our list. Yes, what is number 10? What is book number 10?
So I'm jumping way ahead with this one.
Okay.
Because September 10th is when this one comes out. But I couldn't not put it on the list because it sounds so freaking adorable. And that is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandanna.
Right. So, she wrote The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, yes. Which I have. I think I had when it came out, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think this one for me is going to be a fun, like, fall read.
Cozy fantasy.
Yeah. So, bringing together a grounded fantasy and an engaging romance and setting it at an inn is exactly the kind of cozy, charming read you'd expect it to be. This feel-good magical story with dabbles of alchemy, wit, and fully realized magic is the kind of book to brighten even the most curmudgeonly reader. Sarah Swan was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great-aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her magical guild. Now, she slightly reluctantly and just a bit grumpily helps Aunt Jasmine run an inn in Lancashire, where she deals with her quirky guest shenanigans, tries to keep the talking fox in check, and longs for the magical future she lost. Running an inn, reclaiming lost magic, and staying one step ahead of the watchful guild is a lot for anyone. But Sarah is about to discover that she doesn't have to do it alone, and that the weird, wonderful family she's made might be the best magic of all. And there is a hefty bit of romance in here. And honestly, it sounds a little bit like Gilmore Girls, because Lorelai in Gilmore Girls runs an inn, and the love interest in here, his name is Luke, which is also in Gilmore Girls. So I think this is just going to be a fun one. So it's almost
like fanfic.
Yeah.
Fantasy fanfic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun one to read in like September. And
yeah, it does sound cute.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't speak to the writing. Like I said, I haven't read her first book, but I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And just shenanigans like that. And I think it's what we were talking about in the other one, or with the Kevin Kwan one, that just like things are just going to be happening all of the time in crazy chaos. And that makes a very engaging story for me.
Yeah. A fun read that you just like sinking into and spending time with.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a last one?
I do. And it's by an author that we have both enjoyed before. Stuart Turton has a new book coming out. He wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which we both
really enjoyed.
Can we say enjoyed? I was exhausted when I was finished reading that book.
I learned very quickly in that story to not try to solve it.
No.
I just let it play out.
I know, but still, it was still exhausting.
Oh, sure. But the writing was wonderful. It was it was an engaging story. Yeah. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. You can say whatever, but I thought it was great.
Stuart Turton's new book is called The Last Murder at the End of the World, and it comes out May 21st. If you're familiar with Evelyn Hardcastle, that is a speculative murder mystery where somebody keeps dying over and over again, and the main character keeps inhabiting a different person.
Yeah. It's in the Groundhog Day.
Right.
Yeah.
In the setting. So Stuart Turton tends to write speculatively with his murder mysteries. I didn't read his second book, but a lot of people really love it.
What was his second?
I think The Devil and the
Okay.
I can't remember the title of his second book, but we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. It's The Devil and the Deep Sea or something like that.
But maybe not for me.
Okay. Anyway, getting back to this book, The Last Murder at the End of the World, Barnes & Noble says, from the best-selling author of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and The Devil in the Dark Water. Oh, look, it's right here. It's right in my notes. The Devil and the Dark Water comes an inventive, high-concept murder mystery, an ingenious puzzle, an extraordinary backdrop, and an audacious solution. Solve the murder to save what's left of the world. Outside the island, there is nothing. The world was destroyed by a fog that swept the planet, killing anyone it touched. On the island, it is idyllic. 122 villagers and 3 scientists living in peaceful harmony. The villagers are content to fish, farm, and feast, to obey their nightly curfew, to do what they're told by the scientists. Until, to the horror of the islanders, one of their beloved scientists is found brutally stabbed to death. And then they learn that the murder has triggered a lowering of the security system around the island, the only thing that was keeping the fog at bay. If the murder isn't solved within 92 hours, the fog will smother the island and everyone on it. But the security system has also wiped everyone's memories of exactly what happened the night before, which means that someone on the island is a murderer and they don't even know it.
Oh my gosh.
And the clock is ticking.
Oh my word.
Doesn't that sound like fun?
It sounds ridiculous.
I know, but I think I would love it.
I know. It would be amazing. I'd be so stressed the whole time. My heart rate would be like through the roof.
Yeah. Oh. This is another good summer read, I think, and I'm glad it comes out May 21st. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that too.
That's going to be a good one to take to vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very fun. Yeah. Maybe I'll buy it and then you can have it for when we go away.
Yeah. Although we're not going to do a ton of beach sitting probably.
Yes, we are.
Really?
That's all we're doing.
Okay, great. Let's do it. Perfect. Bring it on.
Okay. Anyway, those are each of us our top 10 books, but that doesn't mean that there weren't other ones.
Right.
I mean, Lee Bardugo has a new book coming out called The Familiar that sounds good. Yeah. For me, Julia Phillips has a new book called Bear coming out. She wrote Disappearing Earth a couple years ago that I really loved. There's several other speculative books that I think sound good. So just, tons and tons. A lot of the writers who write thrillery mystery books have new books coming out. Sally Hepworth has one. Riley Sager has one. So there are just a lot of good books that are coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. So listeners, friends, if you couldn't find something to read this year from this list, I don't know what to say.
Are you even a reader? No,
I'm not going to be hard.
I feel like our books are very specific. I did a lot of speculative, a lot of fantasy, a lot of mystery, a little bit of historical fiction, no contemporary at all. You at least have, The Ministry of Time might be a little bit contemporary. Yeah. No, just straight up romance for me. If there's any romance, it's woven into the story.
No. Okay. Well, I feel like we did a lot more talking this episode than we normally do. Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, we did a lot of reading, which we never do.
Yeah. There was, quite a lot of notes referencing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of books on these lists that I would love to get to this year. Even some of the ones that you talked about, like that Ministry of Time, that's going to go directly on my wish list. I don't know if we're going to get to these books this year.
No.
I might get to one or two, but I'm not sure. Either way, when we do read them, you
we'll
listeners,
talk about them.
Yeah, you'll know about it.
Well, I'm already reading Emily Wilde.
Yes.
So that's definitely going to come up.
Yeah, it will. It should.
Yeah.
It should. We actually should have just like put that on hold and like have both read it and then like
talked about
it. But oh well. Friends, thank you for hanging out with us today. This was a really fun episode to put together, especially looking towards the new year. And since we didn't do this last year, looking at new releases, I think it was really fun to kind of focus a little bit and look at what's coming up. And it's made me very excited about reading this year. I'm very excited. I'm plowing through my winter TBR, and it's been really great so far.
Yeah.
I know we ask this all of the time, but it really does help us out. If you've enjoyed the time that you spent with us today, or if you've enjoyed other episodes that you've listened to from us, we just ask that you rate and review us. This kind of just helps our algorithm be more friendly for others.
Yeah, more visible.
Yes, and it helps us know, honestly,
that you're enjoying the show.
Right.
It's good feedback for us.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word I was looking for, the feedback. Because we do this for us, but we also, those of you that listen regularly, we also want to make sure that we're continuing to do things in a way that it's enjoyable for you guys.
Right.
So rating and reviewing us and sharing us with your friends. Coming up next on our schedule, we're going to be talking about wintry reads. So these are books that maybe that feel like winter. So maybe they're cold and snowy, or they have themes that we tend to dwell on in the winter time, or maybe have a winter holiday that they focus on or something. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get really cold and cozy and snowy the next time around.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have more snow, because that would be meta for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Meta, my favorite word.
Thank you so much, friends and listeners, for spending part of your day with us today. We'd love for you to join us again here in the Book Snug in the next chapter.
Bye, friends. We'd love for you to continue today's conversation with us at the BookSnug_podcast on Instagram and at the Book Snug Podcast on Facebook. All of our episodes can be found wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as at our website, thebooksnugpodcast.budsprout.com, where show notes for every episode can be found. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at thebooksnugpodcast@gmail.com.
As C.S. Lewis, one of our favorite authors, so famously said, "You can never have a cup of tea large enough or a book long enough to suit me," and we wholeheartedly agree.